Let me ask you something. Think about the last time someone made you feel small. Maybe it was a boss who talked over you in a meeting. Maybe it was someone who stepped too close, raised their voice, and stared at you like you were nothing. Maybe it was a family member who always knew exactly which words to say to make you doubt yourself. And in that moment, you froze. Not because you were weak. Not because you had nothing to say, but because something inside you got hijacked quietly, instantly, without warning. That is not a character flaw. That is a psychological trap. And today, on The Aware Mind, we are going to pull it apart piece by piece so that it never catches you again. Here is something most people never stop to think about. The person trying to intimidate you is afraid. That sounds strange, right? The loud one, the aggressive one, the one who invades your space and tries to make your mind go blank. They're performing because somewhere inside, they are scared that calm conversation will not get them what they want. Machiavelli, one of the most studied and most misunderstood thinkers in history, wrote something that very few people talk about. He said that men are driven more by fear than by love, and the one who controls fear controls everything. But here is the part people always miss. He was not only talking about making others fear you, he was talking about the one who is free from fear themselves, the one who cannot be rattled, the one who looks into the storm and does not blink. That person, the unshakable one, holds all the power in the room. Every single time. And that is who you are going to become by the time this video ends. Now I want to tell you about a man named Marcus Aurelius. He was a Roman emperor, arguably the most powerful man on earth during his time. And every single morning, before the weight of an empire fell on his shoulders, he wrote to himself in a private journal. Not speeches, not commands, just quiet words to himself. Reminders. One of those reminders was this. He said, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Marcus Aurelius was not writing about fighting. He was not writing about overpowering anyone. He was writing about a kind of inner stillness that makes you impossible to move. That journal, which we now call Meditations, was never meant to be published. It was a man training his own mind every single day to stay grounded when everything around him trying to pull him apart. That is the foundation of everything you will learn today. Because the 7 psychological moves we are going to walk through are not about becoming cold. They are not about becoming cruel. They are about becoming so steady inside yourself that the moment someone tries to push you, there is simply nothing to push against. Now, before we go into the 7 moves, I need you to understand one thing first. One root truth that everything else grows from. Carl Jung, the Swiss psychiatrist, and one of the most brilliant minds to ever study the human shadow, said something that stopped me cold the first time I read it. He said, everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. Think about what that means for intimidation. When someone tries to overpower you, when they get loud, when they crowd your space, when they use pressure to try and rush your thinking, what they are doing is revealing something. They are showing you their method. They are showing you what they believe works. And the reason they believe it works is because at some point in their past, it did work. On someone, maybe even on you. But Jung's insight tells us something deeper. The reason their behavior gets inside us, the reason it shakes us, is because somewhere in our own mind, we have already agreed with the message they are sending. The message that says, you are not enough. You cannot handle this. Back down. That agreement lives in what Jung called the shadow, the hidden parts of ourselves we have never fully faced. And intimidation is an expert at finding that shadow and speaking directly to it. So the real work we are doing today is not just learning tricks. It is waking up to the mechanics of your own mind so that nothing from the outside can reach the shadow and pull the trigger. This is where the 7 moves begin. And the first one is going to feel almost too simple. But do not let that fool you. Simple is not the same as easy. And this first move alone, when you truly understand it, will change the way every tense interaction feels from this point forward. But before we get into that, I want you to do something right now. Drop this in the comments below. Write this. My mind is not yours to control. Write that. Right now. Because what you are about to learn is not just information, it is a shift. And shifts need a moment to land still with me. Good. Because this is where it starts to get real. 7 moves. 7 psychological to-do. Dots whole. Forged from the deepest thinkers who ever studied power, pressure, and the human mind. We are going to go through each one carefully, not rushing. Because as you are about to discover, rushing is exactly what your opponent wants you to, and we are done giving people what they want. Trick number 1. Asterisk, asterisk, become the eye of the storm. Asterisk, asterisk. Here's what nobody tells you about pressure. Pressure is not a fact, it is a feeling. And feelings, unlike facts, need your participation to survive. The moment you stop feeding a feeling with your reaction, it begins to starve. Think about a storm. The edges of a storm are violent. Wind rips through trees. Rain hammers everything sideways. But right at the center, right in the very eye of the storm, it is completely still. Clear sky above. Silence below. The chaos spins all around, but the center does not move. That is what you are becoming today. Not someone who fights the storm. Not someone who runs from it. Someone who stands in the middle of it and does not move. Epictetus understood this better than almost anyone. He was a slave, a man who had no freedom, no money, no power over his own body, and yet he became one of the most mentally free human beings who ever lived. He taught his students one principle above all others. He said, asterisk, make the best use of what is in your power, and take the rest as it happens. Asterisk, what is in your power when someone tries to intimidate you? Not their voice, not their posture, not the words they choose. You cannot control any of that. What you can control is your face, your breathing, your feet on the floor. The speed at which you speak, the direction of your eyes. Those small things, those quiet, invisible things are your entire arsenal, and when you use them correctly, they are more powerful than anything the other person is throwing at you. Here is exactly what this looks like in practice. Someone comes at you hard. Voice raised. Body forward. Words sharp and fast like they're trying to cut through your thinking before you have time to use it. Your body's first instinct is to match the speed. Your pulse goes up. Your words come out faster. Your hands start to move. You lean back even just slightly, and in that tiny lean and that 1-inch retreat you have already handed something over. Stop. Do not lean back. Instead, plant your feet. Put your weight evenly on both of them. Feel the floor. That is not a meditation exercise. That is a neurological anchor. When your feet feel grounded, your nervous system gets a signal, I am not falling. I am not running. I am irre. Then slow your breathing. Not dramatically, not in a way anyone can see, just quietly, on the inside. Let your exhale be longer than your inhale. That single shift begins to lower your heart rate within seconds, and when your heart rate drops, your thinking clears. Then, and this is the key, say nothing yet. Let their energy move through the air between you and find nothing to land on. The silence you hold in that moment is not weakness. It is the most sophisticated psychological move you can make, because silence, when held with stillness, does not read as confusion. It reads as someone who has absolutely no reason to rush. Thomas Hobbes, who studied power and human nature in raw, brutal detail, said that the strongest person in any conflict is not the one who strikes first, it is the one who makes the other person uncertain. Uncertainty, Hobbes believed, is more paralyzing than any physical threat. Your stillness creates that uncertainty. Instantly. Drop this in the comments right now, right? Asterisk. Asterisk still water runs deep. Asterisk, asterisk trick number 2. Asterisk ask the question they cannot answer. Asterisk, asterisk here is a truth about aggressive people that most of us have never been taught. Aggression is almost always vague on purpose. Think about the last time someone came at you with words designed to make you feel bad. What did those words sound like? They probably sounded something like this. You always do this. Everyone knows you can't handle pressure. This is a disaster and it's because of you. Notice something. Those sentences are big. They are elude, they feel final. But they contain almost nothing real. No date, no specific action. No actual evidence. They are emotional grenades designed not to inform but to detonate. And most people when hit with a grenade, do exactly what the thrower is hoping for. They start defending themselves against a vague charge. They explain, they justify, they prove. And the moment you start defending yourself against something that was never clearly defined, you have already lost the frame. Carl Jung called this kind of language a projection. He said that people very often attack in others what they cannot face in themselves. The accusation is a mirror turned outward. It says more about the one speaking than the one being spoken to. But here's what you do instead of defending. You get curious. In a calm, even almost gentle voice, you ask a precise question. What specifically do you mean by that? Which part exactly are you referring to? Walk me through what you saw. That is it. That is the whole move. Watch what happens. The person who threw a grenade now has to go find the pin. They have to turn a feeling into a fact. And most of the time, cannot do it cleanly, because the grenade was never built on facts. It was built on emotion. Robert Greene, who spent decades studying the laws of power and human behavior, wrote that the most dangerous person in any power struggle is the one who stays calm while forcing the other side to explain themselves. Because explanation costs energy, and energy spent explaining is energy taken away from attacking. You are not arguing. You are not pushing back. You are simply turning on a light in a dark room and asking the other person to show you what is actually there. Aurelius, who built the entire framework of rational thinking through what he called rational emotive behavior therapy, taught that most emotional attacks are built on irrational beliefs, dressed up as facts. The fastest way to dissolve an irrational belief is to ask it to prove itself. It almost never can, so the next time someone hits you with a big, vague, heavy accusation, do not flinch. Do not defend. Just look at them calmly and ask them to be specific. Specificity is the enemy of intimidation. Every single time. Drop this in the comments, right? Asterisk, clarity is my weapon. Trick number 3. Asterisk. Slow everything down, especially yourself. Asterisk, there is a speed trap built into every intimidation attempt. And almost no one talks about it. Here is how it works. When someone applies pressure, loud voice, fast words, urgent body language, they are doing something very specific to your brain. They are telling your nervous system that this is an emergency, and your nervous system, which has not changed much since the days of hunting and being hunted, responds to the word emergency the same way it always has. It speeds everything up. Your pulse climbs. Your thoughts fragment. Your words come out, clipped and stacked on top of each other. Your voice rises in pitch. Your sentence lengths get shorter. And every single one of those changes signals to the room and to you that you are under threat. Now here is the cruel part. That signal feeds the person applying the pressure. It confirms that their tactic is working, so they push harder. And you get faster, and they get louder, and within about 90 seconds, you're not thinking anymore. You're just reacting. And reacting people lose, almost every time. Nietzsche wrote something that cuts straight to the heart of this. He said, asterisk, the higher we soar, the smaller we appear to those who cannot fly. What he meant was that elevation above the noise, above the speed, above the emotional turbulence creates a kind of power that looks impossible from below. Slowing down is how you elevate. And here is the beautiful part. It does not take years of meditation. It does not require any special training. It only takes one decision made in real time, the decision to put your foot on the brake when everything in you wants to press the accelerator. In practice, this is what it looks like. Someone hits you hard with words. Your first instinct is to respond immediately, to fill the silence, to close the gap, to defend your position before they can fire again. Do not let 2 full seconds pass, maybe 3. It will feel like 10. That is fine. Let it feel like 10. When you finally speak, shorten your sentences. Not because you have less to say, but because short sentences delivered slowly carry more weight than long sentences delivered in a panic. Think of the difference between a judge reading a verdict and a witness scrambling to explain themselves. Both people are speaking but only one of them sounds certain. Lower your voice slightly, not to a whisper, just down, away from the upper register where tension lives. A lower, slower voice is unconsciously associated with security across every human culture on Earth. It is primal. It works every time. Arthur Schopenhauer, who spent his life studying the will to deep, unconscious force that drives all human behavior, wrote that most people are slaves to their impulses without ever knowing it. Person who can pause between impulse and action is the rarest kind of person, and rarity, in a room full of reactive people, is dominance. Slow is not passive. Slow is kosen, and what is chosen always looks stronger than what is forced. Drop this in the comments, right? Asterisk, asterisk. My pace. My power. Asterisk, asterisk, trick. Number 4. Asterisk, own the space you are standing in. Asterisk. Asterisk. This one is mostly invisible, but it changes everything. Every interaction has a physical dimension that runs beneath the words being spoken. While your mouths are moving, your bodies are having a completely separate conversation, and that conversation is older than language. It is wired into the part of the brain that decides, within milliseconds, who has status in this room. Plato taught that the body is not separate from the mind. He believed that physical posture and mental state were deeply linked, that how you hold yourself shapes how you think, and how you think shapes how you hold yourself. Was right? And modern science has spent decades catching up to what he already understood. Here is what the body conversation looks like when intimidation is happening. The aggressor leans forward. They take up more space. Their feet are wide. Their chest is open. They are, in every physical sense, expanding. And what do most people do in response? They contract. Shoulders come in. Chin drops. Feet move together. Weight shifts to one side. The body is saying, I am smaller than you. Please stop. And the aggressor's brain reads that signal and pushes harder. So here's what you do instead. You do not expand aggressively. You do not puff out your chest or try to look bigger. That is theater, and you are not here to perform. What you do is simply refuse to contract. Keep your feet where they are. Keep your shoulders level. Keep your chin parallel to the floor. Keep your chest open. If they step closer, resist the automatic reflex to step back, just to hold your ground for one beat longer than feels comfortable. Let them be the one who realizes they have stepped too far. That single act, holding your physical ground, sends a message to the other person's subconscious that lands harder than anything you could say. It says, I am not afraid of your proximity, and that one signal is often enough to stall an entire intimidation attempt. Machiavelli wrote in The Prince that a man who is seen to hesitate will be tested. A man who holds his ground without aggression will be respected, even by those who wish he would break. Trick number 5. Asterisk. Asterisk. Let their bait dangle. Don't bite. Asterisk. Asterisk. Sigmund Freud spent his entire career mapping the hidden machinery of the human mind. One of his most important discoveries was this. We do not respond to the world as it is. We respond to the world as we fear it to be. Intimidators know this, not always consciously, but they have learned through years of practice exactly which emotional hooks get people moving. Pride, shame, fear of looking weak, fear of being disrespected, fear of losing status in front of others. They throw those hooks like fishermen, and most people bite before they even know a line was in the water. The move here is something psychologists now call emotional decoupling. It means you learn to see the hook before it reaches you. You notice the bait, the insult designed to wound your pride, the insinuation designed to trigger your shame, and instead of biting, you just watch it pass. This is not numbness. Freud was very clear that repressing emotion is dangerous. You are not pretending you feel nothing. You are simply choosing not to let what you feel steer the car. Carl Jung deepened this idea when he wrote about the concept of individuation. The process of becoming fully yourself, separate from the noise of what others project onto you. He said that the truly individuated person is not someone who feels nothing. They are someone who feels everything and is controlled by nothing. Your face stays neutral. Your voice stays even. You reply, if you give one at all, is short and room temperature. Not cold, not warm, just steady. When the bait finds nothing to hook, the fisherman pulls it back and tries again. And when that fails too, something shifts. They begin to feel what you are not showing: uncertainty. And uncertainty, in a power struggle, belongs to the one who is losing. Drop this in the comments, right? Asterisk. Asterisk. I see the hook. I choose not to bite. Asterisk. Asterisk. Trick number 6. Asterisk. Asterisk. Agree with part of it. Surrender none of it. Asterisk. Asterisk. This one is going to feel wrong the first time you hear it, because everything in you, every instinct built up over years of being pushed around, is going to say, if I agree with anything they say, I lose. But that instinct is lying to you. Here is the truth. Agreeing with a piece of someone's attack is not the same as surrendering to all of it. These are not the same currency. And when you confuse them, when you think every agreement is a defeat, you lock yourself into a rigid, brittle position that the other person can crack simply by pushing harder. Machiavelli understood this deeply. He wrote that the wise ruler does not fight every battle. He chooses which battles to win, the ones that matter, and he lets the small ones pass, not out of weakness, but out of strategy. He called this the art of the partial concession. Give a little so you keep a lot. Here is what this sounds like in real life. Someone says, your idea is completely unrealistic, and anyone with any sense can see that. Most people respond in one of two ways. Either they attack back, that's completely wrong and you don't know what you're talking about, or they crumble. You're right, maybe I didn't think it through. Both of those responses lose. Here is the third way. You say, calmly, slowly, with full eye contact, you might be right that there are parts of it that need work. Here is why I still believe in the direction. That is it. You acknowledged. You did not surrender. You gave them a sliver of validation which immediately drops their emotional temperature, and then you walked straight back into your position without drama. Robert Greene wrote in the 48 Laws of Power that the most skilled power players in history were never the ones who won every argument. They were the ones who made other people feel heard, while quietly keeping every card in their own hand. Jordan Peterson, who has spent decades studying dominance hierarchies and how human beings establish status, says that the most respected people in any group are not the most aggressive. They are the ones who can acknowledge opposing views without losing their own. That ability to hold two things at once signals cognitive strength, and cognitive strength is what genuine authority looks like. When you learn this move, something remarkable happens. The argument loses its heat. The other person, now partly satisfied that they were heard, loses some of their urgency, and in that cooled space, your steady position becomes the most solid thing in the room. You yielded an inch. You kept a mile. Drop this in the comments, right? Asterisk, asterisk. I hear you. I am not moved. Asterisk, asterisk. Trick number 7. Asterisk, asterisk. Walk away like you won. Because you did. Asterisk, asterisk. Every performance needs an audience. Every intimidation attempt needs a witness to its success. And that witness, the one the intimidator is performing for most desperately, is you. Think about what actually happens at the end of most confrontations. People do not remember the middle. They remember how it ended. The last image, the last tone of voice, the last expression on the face of the person who walked away. That final moment is the one that gets replayed in the intimidator's mind, in the minds of anyone else who was watching, and most importantly in your own mind, when you lie awake that night going over it again. This is why the exit is not an afterthought. The exit is the final move, and it is often the most powerful one. Epictetus, who, as we said earlier, had no physical freedom but absolute psychological freedom, taught his students that the exit is where you demonstrate what no one could take from you. He said, asterisk, no man is free who is not master of himself. Asterisk, the composed walk away is the proof of that mastery. Not words, not arguments. Just the quiet certainty of someone who does not need the last word because they already have the last word. It is written in the way they leave. Here is what the exit looks like when it is done right. You do not spin away quickly. That reads as escape, and everyone in the room, including your own nervous system, knows it. Instead, you finish your last sentence cleanly. No trailing off. No speeding up at the end. No apologizing with your tone for the fact that you are ending the conversation. 10. You move unhurried, natural pace. Shoulders level. Chin up slightly. Relaxed jaw. No muttering under your breath. No head shake. No long exhale the moment you think you are out of sight. Because here is something most people never realize. The body does not stop communicating the moment the conversation ends. It keeps sending signals for several more seconds, signals that the other person is watching, even if they pretend not to be. Stay composed all the way out, not until you turn the corner. All the way out, then, and this is something very few people practice, do not immediately replay the encounter. Do not send a message. Do not call someone to vent. Let it settle. Let the silence after the exit be part of the move, because in that silence, your calm ending is doing its work. It is becoming the story. Marcus Aurelius wrote, waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. P1. The composed exit is the embodiment of that line. You have nothing left to prove. You proved it by not needing to. So let us bring all 7 together, and let me show you what they look like as a complete system. Someone tries to intimidate you. You plant your feet and become the eye of the storm. Trick 1. You feel the pressure and you do not feed it. You let it arrive and find nothing. If they come at you with a vague accusation, you ask the one question they cannot easily answer. Trick 2. You turn the spotlight around and let them work instead of you. If the speed of the encounter starts to rise, you put your foot on the brake. Trick 3. Slower speech. Lower voice. Shorter sentences. You change the weather in the room without touching a single thing outside of yourself. You keep your feet planted and your body open. Trick 4. You do not give them the physical retreat they are looking for. You hold your ground, quietly, without making it a fight. When the bait comes, the insult, the insinuation, the jab designed to hook your pride, you watch it pass. Trick 5. You see it clearly and you choose. You are never again someone who bites without knowing there was a line in the water. If there is something in what they said that contains even a sliver of truth, you acknowledge it clearly and briefly, then walk straight back to your position. Trick 6. You give them a piece of what they want and keep everything that matters. And when the moment is right, not when they decide, but when you decide, you walk away clean. Trick 7. Composed unhurried. Unfinished business left deliberately behind, because you know what you proved and you need no one else's confirmation. Carl Jung until you make the unconscious conscious. It will direct your life, and you will call it fate. The person who tried to intimidate you in the past succeeded not because they were powerful. They succeeded because you had not yet made conscious what was happening inside you. The hijack was invisible. The trap had no label. Now, it does. Now, you know what freeze the stage means. You know what it feels like to ask the question that disarms. You know how to slow the tempo, hold the ground, let the bait pass, agree without surrendering, and exit like someone who never needed to win the argument because they never lost themselves inside it. That is not a trick. That is who you are becoming. And the next time someone tries to crowd your space, rush your thinking, or make your mind fold under their pressure, they're going to feel something they've probably never felt before from you. A wall. Not an angry wall. Not a cold wall. Just a steady, grounded, completely immovable presence that has nothing to prove and nowhere it needs to run. That is the most unsettling thing a bully can encounter. Someone who simply does not need them to stop. If this gave you something real today, not just information, but a shift in how you see yourself in these moments, then do something that matters. Share this video with one person who is dealing with someone in their life who is trying to make them feel small. One person. That is all. Because this kind of awareness is the difference between living on someone else's terms and finally living on your own. Like the video so that the aware mind can reach more people who need this. Subscribe so you never miss the next deep dive. And drop your final affirmation in the comments right now. Write this. Asterisk. I am the eye. I am the ground. Nothing moves me that I do not choose. Asterisk. Asterisk. See you in the next one.